Good evening and welcome to The Chase, Zimbabwe's premier current affairs program. I'm Ibn Mabunda and we're coming to you from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. Now, the United Nations estimates that international migrant numbers are on the increase with more than 280 million, and 3 out of 4 international migrants are aged between 20 and 64 years. The statistics show an upward trend, and there is no sign that this trend is going to stop anytime soon. These stats have challenged all stakeholders to look at migration from a different perspective, and there is a growing interest in the nexus between migration and development. Above all, the need to guarantee the protection of migrants. The impact of labor migration on development largely depends on the policy framework in which the migration process unfolds. Zimbabwe yearns to improve the governance of labor migration, as well as protection and empowerment of migrant workers, the safe, orderly and regular flow of people for socio-economic development of the nation, which is of paramount importance. To ensure that happens, the government in August 2023 launched the Zimbabwe National Migration Policy, a blueprint of migration. Now, question is this: what is the National Migration Policy? How is it of benefit to you and me as well? We look no further than, of course, these issues as we delve into these affairs on this edition of The Chase. To help me unpack this, I am joined by the expert Respect Gono, the Chief Director, Immigration from the Ministry of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage. And our subject tonight is unpacking the Zimbabwe National Migration Policy. Now join me after the break as we unpack these issues. Welcome back to The Chase, Zimbabwe's premier current affairs program. I'm Ibn Mabunda as we come to you from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. Now, to our viewers, you can join the conversation tonight via social media handles at Zimpapers TV Network as well as at ZTN Prime. Now, remember that the views expressed on The Chase are those of our guests and do not reflect those of Zimpapers 1980 or those of ZTN Prime. I'm now joined by my guest tonight, Respect Gono, the Chief Director, Immigration from the Ministry of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage. Hello and welcome to The Chase.
Thank you, Ibn. Good evening, viewers.
Fantastic. Now, to cut to the chase, the Zimbabwe National Migration Policy was launched, and there is a belief out there that this is the panacea to all migration challenges that Zimbabwe has been grappling with, of course, in the past. Now, briefly, what is the National Migration Policy?
Thank you. The National Migration Policy is a government policy that seeks to transform the migration management in Zimbabwe. I want to tell you that the policy talks about the bold and transformative move by the Ministry of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage through the Department of Immigration. And this is through the national the NDS1, which talks of the first pillar, which talks of bold and transformative policies. So this is one such policy, and I want to indicate that the policy is it complements the diaspora policy, the national labor migration policy, as well as the tourism policy.
Right. Now, earlier on, I made reference to the global statistics and the trends that we're seeing at a global trend. Mm-hmm. Now, on a local scale, how big is the phenomenon of migration and its challenges in Zimbabwe? Can you take us through perhaps the current migration trends that are taking place in the country? And maybe you can give us some of the latest trends that are affecting this particular subject.
Thank you. Migration trends are quite tricky these days. I want to mention that there's what we call mixed migration now. when we talk of mixed migration, we are talking about an investor. I'm sure you are aware the president has got a mantra that we follow that says we are open for business. We've been inviting investors to come into the country. So as I talk about mixed migration, allow me to say as the investor is coming, the tourist is coming, the illegal migration, the illegal immigrant is also coming. And I must say this has been very disturbing. We've had a lot of problems with human trafficking, and now we've got a new phenomenon called human smuggling. Human smuggling is whereby an individual actually pays a pimp to say, take me to a particular place, and you find yourself, whether in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, or whatever country that you want to be, obviously to carry out some nefarious activities.
Right.
So we hope the National Migration Policy is going to assist us to identify such people and flush them out.
Right. When we talk about migration, some key terms that thrown around illegal as well as irregular migration. May you speak to the definition of these terms and how crucial they are to this very subject?
Irregular migration and illegal migration are almost similar. There's a very thin line between the two, but basically it means the same thing. Because when you talk of illegal migration, you are talking of migration that is illegal. Normally, people tend to use designated ports of entries and exits instead of people using the safe migration, going before an immigration officer through a normal border and presenting themselves and using a valid passport. Most people tend to avoid this, well, for different reasons. Some people are running away from displacements. Some people are moving for various crimes like terrorism and all other things that you can ever think of.
Right. To zero in a little bit on some of the associated figures where migration is concerned, to talk about diaspora remittances, which have of course increased from about 126 million in 2020 to now over 1.9 billion dollars in 2022. Now, question is this: when talking about migration for development, are these some of the factors that the document looks into for sustainable development?
Certainly. I made mention that the National Migration Policy complements 3 other policies, and I did mention the National Labour Migration Policy. I want to congratulate the Minister of Labour because you find that Minister of Labour managed to send a number of teachers to Rwanda, and the country is now in charge. I want to say the country is now able to export its labor and be able to get the necessary remittances. For example, you know, countries like India, they export their labor, they can export medical staff, they can export ICT specialists, and they get their remittances. And I think Zimbabwe is in the right path.
Right. Besides irregular migration, there are also issues of forced displacement, which of course you alluded to earlier on in this conversation, the violation of human rights in that particular process. And that is among the 20 core components of the National Migration Policy. Can you tell us more about these?
We have problems in Zimbabwe because of the porousness of our borders. You find that Zimbabwe has got 4 international airports and the rest are land borders. And it makes it very easy for whoever wants to walk in and walk out just like that. We do have border patrols, yes, here and there, but then you find that the borderline is very long and it's difficult to control it at any given time. So these people actually know that security is at this particular point at this time, so we use the other entry point. So I must say, as part of the security sector, we've been having problems, a lot of problems with irregular people that move from one place to the other. I'll tell you you something that the Immigration Department did. We came up with a gender-based violence call center in 2021. It was in the middle of COVID. So what we were trying to do is we were trying to communicate with migrants and try and protect them from any harm that they may face. You know, there's a lot of trouble when you are moving, especially for the girl child and the women. So we then came up with a gender-based violence call center to assist anyone who is migrating from one place to the other, especially those that had been displaced, moving from one place to the other, running away from war zones, maybe running away from floods and other natural disasters and things like that. I must say this gender-based call center has been so helpful because we then advertised our toll-free numbers. And I must say quite a number of people that have been moving across our borders during COVID, because most borders were closed, they actually benefited from that call center.
Right, and now we're speaking of the launch of this national blueprint, of course, where migration is concerned. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm sure the viewers would want to know exactly how this national migration policy will address migration-related challenges faced perhaps at a global, regional, as well as also at national levels.
Okay, thank you. Let me unpack the national migration policy.
Right.
The national migration policy opens up opportunities, so to speak. It opens opportunities in the sense that all along as the Department of Immigration, we've been looking at what we call immigration, which is the coming into the country of people from all over the globe. It could be the investors that I alluded to before. It could be tourists. It could be Zimbabweans coming back home. You know, yesterday I was reading the Sunday Mail, and it actually talked of 1 million Zimbabweans that have come back home to settle permanently, that have been in the diaspora. So these are the kind of people that I'm talking about. So after launching the national migration policy, we then moved to say we are now looking at immigration and emigration. Emigration is basically the idea of Zimbabweans moving into the diaspora. And like I said before, I want to congratulate Ministry of Labour because they are moving in the right direction. Now we can export labour and now we can get remittances. I'm sure the Rwanda scenario is just the first step in the right direction. I'm sure we'll have more in the near future.
Of course, much to decipher and much talk about where this subject is actually concerned. We'll take a breather. When we come back, we explore this subject further. The Chase will be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Every village has a scandal, and in each case, the chief has to restore sanity to his realm. From adultery the supernatural avenging spirits. To disputed paternity.
Vabereki vako kuti ndiye murume wako kumba kwenyu ndeupi?
Wavaiziva ndeuyu asi zvakapera. Pari zvino ndeuyu.
Ndeuyu?
Anozikamwa sose mukwasha kucha kwenyu.
Asati akakuzikamwa.
Catch all this intriguing reality on Village Court, 7 p.m. every Monday on ZTN Prime.
Right, guys, this is your guy, Jar Praiser. Catch ZTN Prime on DSTV channel 294. Icho, Ogwizi, out.
You're watching The Chase, Zimbabwe's premier current affairs program. I'm Eben Mabunda. We're coming to you from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. Now, tonight, we are unpacking the Zimbabwe National Migration Policy with my guest, Respect Gono, the Chief Director, Immigration from the Minister of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage. Now, picking up from where we left off, we went into detail about the Zimbabwe National Migration Policy and, of course, we explored the teensy-weensys of that particular document. Now, the question is this. With the adoption of this policy, will this be enough and sufficient to perhaps plug all the gaps where all matters migration in Zimbabwe are concerned?
Thank you. We may not achieve perfection, let me say, but however, we'll go a very long way in achieving quite a number of solutions to solve the migration problem. The migration discourse is very tricky. You may recall when I started the interview, I spoke about the issue of being a bold and transformative policy. I want to say it is a very bold move to come up with such a policy. What it means by being bold is that we now look at taking bold steps towards harnessing all the problems, all the challenges that have got everything to do with illegal migration. It is transformative in the sense that we are now moving forward. I want to bring to your attention that we used to have 7 policies and we used to have 2 visas, a tourism visa and a business visa, which were not sufficient. For example, I will say a business visa that we currently have is not enough in the sense that it's for 30 days only. When an investor comes, they want to have time to explore the opportunities that we are offering and all. And to give them 30 days and you ask them to leave is not fair. The president is saying the country is open for business. So we are not showing any seriousness if we ask people to leave after 30 days. To make matters worse, the holiday visa is for 6 months. Zimbabwe is not that big for you to go round and round and have an appreciation of all the tourist resorts in 6 months. So I am sure we need to turn our tables and have a longer business visa and a shorter tourism visa, of which maybe if we bring it to 3 months, tourism visa, I'm sure that will be sufficient, and to bring the business visa to about 6 months, so that an investor has got enough time to explore all the avenues, all the opportunities that are available for them to find the most appropriate venture that they want to go into.
Right. Perhaps as follow-up to the visa subject that you're just talking about, we have seen other countries on the continent getting rid of visas for African travelers. To cite Rwanda, they made the announcement earlier on, about 2 weeks ago. We also saw Kenya making that particular leap, that effective the 1st of January 2024, visas will not be required for travelers that will be flying into Kenya. Is it something that Zimbabwe is also looking at? And what is the stance of the government where that is actually concerned?
Certainly. We recently signed the online border management system. It's about 3 weeks ago. It will soon be launched. The the online border management system is a system that brings all the things that we've been doing separately: visas, permits, clearance of passengers in and out of the country. What this online border management system seeks to achieve is to have an e-visa in the comfort of your home. to have an e-permit in the comfort of your home, to have an e-gate to clear passengers as they come in and go out of the country. So what is happening is that most countries have such systems, and they can afford to allow people to come into the country without any visas, and they'll be able to trace you without any problems. If you come in and you overstay, it's very easy to track you if we've got such a system. As a result, I am happy to announce that as soon as we start rolling out this system, certainly we are going the same direction.
When are there time frames as to when we could see this system being implemented in Zimbabwe?
I can't say exactly, but let me say first half of 2024 we'll be rolling out this online border management system. Maybe for your information, I just want to tell you that Zimbabwe was the first SADC country to remove visas from all SADC member states. As all SADC member states come into the country, they don't pay for visas. They don't apply for visas. They just come. If a South African, if a Zambian, if anyone in the region thinks of coming to Zimbabwe, they are most welcome. And this happened 3 years ago. And we are moving in that path to other African countries. For example, we've moved to Kenya, and we are moving in a phased approach. And very soon, the whole of Africa will be in the same category.
Right, let's move on to another subject. Another challenge is that of the welfare of Zimbabwean nationals in foreign lands. Firstly, can you take us through how this Zimbabwean national migration policy will ensure and facilitate the safe, orderly and regular migration of Zimbabweans?
Thank you. Let me take you back to the issue where I was applauding the Ministry of Labour for exporting labour to Rwanda, whereby they sent in a group of teachers, and I must say that we are so happy as a country. We've been getting the necessary remittances, and everything is moving smoothly. But this is a first approach. We are moving from one step to the other. So we are in the right direction, moving towards achieving such. So let me assure you that very soon, maybe second half of 2024, all Zimbabweans will be well catered for. We'll be able to export labor and make sure that all Zimbabweans are moving to wherever they want to go freely and are safe, and remittances are coming back home.
Right. One of the issues that is critical when you talk about migration is that of human trafficking. I think you hinted on that in the first segment of this conversation. It is very much of a concern, not just for Zimbabwe, not just for the continent, but even at a global scale. And you also have cases where Zimbabweans that move into other countries have cases where their passports are withheld from them, and they find out that they are stuck in some of these particular jurisdictions. May you speak a little bit on that and what government is doing, and perhaps if it is catered for in the Zimbabwe national migration policy?
Indeed, it is. The national migration policy talks about human trafficking, and I want to give examples of Kuwait and Oman. You are aware our ladies went to Kuwait, and the government made efforts to come and pick some of them. Of course, we didn't bring all of them. There are quite a number that are left in Kuwait. Why? Because if you are trafficked, there's a lot of deception, and your documents are taken away from you as soon as you arrive in that country. As soon as you arrive in that country, then you are a slave. Most of these countries, they don't view us as employees, as workers. We don't talk of exporting labor, especially to the Gulf. We are talking of people being enslaved. And the government, I must say, has actually been doing what we call awareness campaigns. The police does that, immigration does that, Ministry of Labour does that. We all come together and we have awareness campaigns to try and tell our people to use the safe route of using your passport and making sure before you leave that you've explored all avenues. You found out even from the embassy in that particular country where you are going, to say, can you speak to these people? Find out if this company is genuine. If this company is something that we can talk about, and you can have the much needed revenue to send home. Unfortunately, the majority of our ladies don't think so. I want to tell you that during the days of Kuwait, the immigration officers would try to ask questions to say, you know, the last person that you see as you leave the country is the immigration officer. So we had asked immigration officers to ask, to say, do you know where you are going? Do you want assistance? Here is the number to the Kuwait embassy, the Zimbabwean embassy in Kuwait. You know, something like that. We tried by all means to help them. But I want to say it is very sad that the majority of our women are stuck in the Gulf, mainly in Kuwait and in Oman, and it's a very sad story. Unfortunately, people continue to go. I'm not sure what sort of message we need to send to such people, to say they probably need to empower themselves back home. There's no need for you to go to Kuwait or to Oman to be enslaved. I'm sure they don't research much before they leave.
Obviously, part of the efforts to get that addressed is, of course, having conversations on a platform such as this one, where, of course, millions get to pay attention to the message that's being relayed. But my concern is on those that are already stuck, that you said you have been able to establish some degree of contact with them. Are there any expectations of there being a resolve to the crisis that has befallen them?
Yes, we've got an interministerial committee headed by the Ministry of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage, the one that launched what we call the NAPLAC policy. The NAPLAC policy is more to do with human trafficking and bringing back Zimbabweans who are stuck all over the world. And I must say that committee has been working very hard. They've been to Kuwait, they've been to Oman, and unfortunately, the people from Oman know that Zimbabweans are now coming to take their people, and most of them are hiding these people. You may recall the Kuwait one, where Zimbabwe sent a plane to pick up all Zimbabweans that were in Kuwait. And the majority of the employers made sure none would be found. Because they take away your phone, they take away everything, they even take away your passport and your clothes. So it's very difficult for you to run away and go to the embassy and not be detected. Because most of them, it's the men that go out and not the ladies and the children. They're at home, they can see you. So it's very difficult for you to run away and go to the embassy. And this is a new place that you don't know. So we are still making efforts as government to try and bring back all the Zimbabweans that are in the diaspora and that are in trouble. Maybe I should just mention that Zimbabwe was actually the first country to go to Kuwait to bring back our people. I'm sure you then saw Malawi trying to do the same, Mozambique doing the same, after Zimbabwe had gone to Kuwait to bring back our people. So efforts are still underway for us to bring back everyone who is in trouble.
Quite a concerning subject of discussion there. Now, it brings us to the next subject. In what ways and areas can the national migration policy be improved to address the country's long-standing migration as well as migration-related challenges equitably, inclusively, and sustainably?
Why don't we wait for it to be rolled out first? And then we can then start picking up on the grey areas to say this is a grey area, we need to rectify it in this particular way. As far as I know, this blueprint is foolproof for the meantime. So let's roll it out. Let's see how it goes. And then we can talk about improving on it after we've seen all the grey areas.
of course, the taste of the pudding is in the mouth, but over and beyond the policy as well as the state of affairs, let's talk about the other areas that would be crucial. Maybe if I highlight, there might be clarity on that. Where and how can non-state actors and other key stakeholders such as donors and the business community assist and partner with government in the successful implementation of the national migration policy, to put it across that way?
Thank you. I want to tell you that for the past 3 years, this document was compiled for 3 years. We started the workshops and all the meetings that we had in 2020. And I must say IOM has been very instrumental. That's the organization of International Organization for Migration, sorry. IOM has been very instrumental to the Department of Immigration, and I spoke about the Gender-Based Violence Call Center, which is part of the National Migration Policy, that was sponsored by the UNDP. So quite a number of state actors are in the process. We can never go it alone. And most non-governmental organizations and non-state actors are still welcome to improve on the document so that we come up with a foolproof document.
The taste of the pudding, of course, is in the mouth. Now, what are the staffing limitations at all major ports of entry? And I would still hasten to throw in the question as to when we can expect the full digitalization of all processes related to migration. I know you spoke about a mid-2024 date as well as a target that's being looked at, but may you elaborate on this very subject?
Okay. Staffing levels, I must say there are no problems. Not at all. And the fact that we are going the online border management system way, it means we may not need all our staff. Why? Because we are going to be using machines. Our visitors are going to be talking to machines. There is no negotiation with a human. People are going to be negotiating with machines, of which it reduces a lot of corruption. It reduces a lot of human interface. As a result, the online border management system is coming in handy at the right time to ensure that all our land borders, like I told you, there are more land borders than airports in the country. So all our staffing levels, we are okay. I want to bring to your attention an example of Beitbridge Border Post. Beitbridge Border Post now has 3 terminals. It has helped to decongest traffic, I must say. However, it is helping in a way that all our staff are now going into gradual shifts, but it's now, they are not under pressure, so to speak. They are deployed, in a way that they can save passengers, be it trucks, be it buses, be it passengers with small vehicles, in a way that is conducive to everyone. So staffing levels is not a problem, not at all. And the online border management system is bringing all the machines. It's going to be digitalized and everyone will be happy.
Right. Of course, we look forward to that seeing the light of day, guided, of course, by the national migration policy, which, of course, is right before our faces. And you spoke about the Beitbridge Border Post and how it has seen a decongestion owing to, of course, the 3 portals that you alluded to. And there have been indications of the possibility of that also being copied and pasted on our key border or portals for the country. May you speak a bit on that?
Sorry, can we go again?
I'm saying you mentioned how the Beitbridge border has now become a template of how Zimbabwe can actually improve its the processing of both human traffic as well as also the goods that pass through our borders. May you speak to the possibilities where some of the borders are actually concerned, and perhaps how that model can be copied and pasted to all of these border posts that we've got in the country.
Oh, indeed. Harare Airport is one such. Harare Airport, the Robert Gabriel Mugabe Airport, is really improved. We've got so many terminals, and the ambience is something else. I hope you've visited Harare Airport.
Certainly.
You should see the ambience. You should see how big it is, how spacious it is, and how decongested it is. We no longer have problems anymore of passengers standing in very long queues to be served by immigration. We've got more counters, same as Zimra, same as everybody, all the other stakeholders at Harare Airport are complementing our efforts at the airport. We do have Kasungula. Kasungula Airport, Kasungula border is one such very busy border. And we are hoping that Kasungula is becoming a one-stop border post very soon. We expect it to become a one-stop border post maybe in mid-2024. Most of our tourists come through Kasungula. And I must say Kasungula is actually one of our cash cows. Kasungula is a border where most tourists come through. Most tourists would want to do Namibia, Zambia, Botswana, you know, that kind of visit. And they obviously come to Zimbabwe to view our beautiful falls. So Kasungula should be next, as well as Forbes border post, because there's a lot of congestion at Forbes border post at the moment. So Forbes is following, as well as Kasungula border post.
Right. You mentioned how busy some of these portals have become, and yet there are concerns and questions raised on why Zimbabweans are asked to fill in those forms at the airport and also perhaps at the borders. May you speak to the importance of that, and whether there is a way of streamlining some of these processes so that they become easier and more efficient, to put it across that way for Zimbabweans?
I'm happy to announce that that process has been stopped. That was mainly for COVID, because a Ministry of Health wanted to follow up on particular individuals. They wanted to know where you are coming from, why you are coming on this flight, with who, and where you are going, and
precisely
if you've been in hospital or whatever. But then after COVID, beginning of 2023, that form has been removed. It's not there anymore.
Right. As we near a wrap up to our conversation, you mentioned the aspect of corruption earlier on in the conversation, and we continue to hear of reports and allegations of corruption at some of these portals into and out of Zimbabwe. What is your assessment of that situation, and what is being done to address that state of affairs, especially where our portals are actually concerned, be they the air portals, as well as also of course the road portals that we've got for Zimbabwe?
Okay, the Public Service Commission regulations are simple. If you are found on the wrong side of the law, you are suspended. And then you go through all the processes, and you are suspended, and the board will then decide on whether you lose your job or you get some form of punishment and you come back. And it continues to be like that.
It continues to be like that. But then again, it also comes back to how can we ensure that our offices that are strategically positioned in these specific spaces also get to perhaps eliminate or reduce the degrees of corruption that continue to be reported?
The idea of putting an online border management system solves all those problems. Because I was saying the online border management system reduces human interface. So a traveler doesn't talk to an immigration officer. They come in, they put their passport through an e-gate, and that's it. And then you go through. If you don't qualify, obviously you'll be denied entry, and that's it.
Respect Gono, Ministry of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage Chief Director responsible for immigration. Ma'am, thank you for joining us on The Chase.
Thank you.
Well, of course, that's a wrap on today's episode of The Chase. Do follow us on our social media handles at Zim Papers TV Network, as well as at ZTN Prime. I'm Ibn Mabunda. Let them do what they do, and we do what we do. We mean business. Thank you for watching, and have a good evening.